This record is property of the Relmian Guild of Exploration and Discovery, distributed by the Dalreach Authority to new settlers for educational purposes. The New World has a plethora of races and species, some of them just as conscious as we are. Spread out in almost every part of the New World, all with their own distinct features and abilities, but many of them are primitive, some even animalistic. It's important to make the distinctions between each race who are to tolerate and who to stay away from or even kill on sight, from the most sane to the worst. Starting with the most known race, the Homo sapiens, commonly known as mankind or humans, are by far the most common race in all of Aya. In Albian, mankind make up 35% of all races, concentrated in the colonies set up by Old World powers. Humans are by far the most successful species on the continent, surpassing even the elves. But before Armin Rolus discovered Albian, it was a different story. Humans were few in numbers, concentrated in the feudalistic nightmare known as Haelgar, and were seen as inferior versions of elves. Population numbers were never precise, but for the longest time, it was estimated that, for every one human, there were 7 elves. That was, of course, until the might of Relmian arrived to Albion and proceeded to capitulate one of their major empires, thanks to our technological superiority. The most common race in Albion are the elves, also known as the Homo elvari. They are considered the oldest species in Albion, but also one of the least friendly races to humans. Before the discovery, they deemed themselves as the dominant species on the continent because they saw themselves as the chosen race by their owl idols, who they believed gave them their various physical advantages over humans. For one, their long pointed ears makes it easier for them to hear. Their lifespans are much longer than humans, between 150 to 200 years, while humans barely live to 70. There is also another aspect to consider about their race, a more dangerous aspect. You see, magic or witchcraft are a lot more prevalent in Albion than in the rest of the world. When it comes to magic in Albion, there are 3 distinct social classes of magic: the purebloods, those who can't perform any magic; half-bloods, the most common form of magic users; and gold-bloods, the rarest and most powerful magisters. They make extremely dangerous opponents. Their powers and abilities are unpredictable. They were known to attack settlements and villages set up by pioneer colonists in Heranon and are very good at hiding. That is why witchcraft has been completely outlawed in the Relmian colonies. Overall, the elves are intelligent and civilized, but very dangerous for our own positions. Those who accepted eternity and abandoned witchcraft and idol worship are the only exceptions to this, as they are seen as equals to humans under Relmian law. Known as the Homo parva, the dwarves are an isolated species. They hide in their mountains and almost never really interact with the outside world. Their impressive underground networks makes it clear that they are very talented in building and engineering. The dwarves of Cantera were commissioned in 1412 to create and help develop great marvels of technology. They created the first prototypes for cartridge-based guns, improvements in steam power, and a lot more. But these great marvels don't come without downsides. The dwarves are an isolated species, and they see these interactions as transactions. They do not swear loyalty to any crown or king. Last time Relmian forces attempted to capture a dwarven stronghold, it caused more than 1,300 dead. Their short stature makes them very noticeable, on average about 4'9" to 5'1" tall. Another defining characteristic of dwarves are their beards. Dwarves grow beards from as early as 10, with even females having reportedly had a lot of chin hair as well. This is where the myth that dwarves have no females came from. They clearly have women. They are just ugly. They are by far one of the more weirder and unique intelligent races in Albion, known as the Homo felinea, more commonly known as Syers. They are men with a lot of feline features. Their population is concentrated and are almost exclusive to the Canoparian Sea and the many islands that are inside it. Before the discovery, they were considered the best sailors on the continent. It is believed that it was the Syers who were the first to circle the entirety of the New World. Their culture and language are based solely on what they called the path of water, an idea that all people will one day return to the water and reunite with the god of water, Irukan, with the owl goddess having the responsibility to safeguard the continent from the eternal darkness. The Syers have a lot of distinctly feline features, both in their physical appearance and behavior. Their ears are feline, they have tails, most of them have fangs, and the color of their hair correlate to the common hair colors of cat fur. Today, they mostly live under the control of the Vinnic merchant republics. Because of their soft power, they manage to slowly take control of every island in the sea, as well as many coastal ports and cities. Segregation laws to separate the Syers from humans is common. It's very often that these poorer Syer populations resort to illegal jobs to get a good living, piracy especially. The Homo skulkas, also known as greenskins, are not exactly one unified race, but primarily make up three closely related species. The orcs are the most common large brutes who are basically all muscle and no brains. They can never truly be united. Every time a tribal confederacy is formed, it never lasts more than a year. They are very carnivorous, living in the jungles of Middle Albian and feeding off of wildlife, if not themselves. The goblins are a lot smaller than orcs, but they make up for it for their speed and their conniving and deceitful nature. Their nations last far longer than the orcs, and do have forms of currency and even organized societies. But these never last very long. They are sometimes just as if not more vicious than the orcs. They are mostly concentrated in the south of the jungles, usually around the coasts. The ogres are an odd mix of both. They share the muscles of the orcs, but also share the minds of the goblins. They are by far the most reasonable of the greenskins, but that's not a high bar. They are still barbaric and vicious. They themselves have been able to unite, but also launch invasions into the north, and often successful incursions. They are the only ones able to be reasoned with. They worship their own patron god, known as Shurek, while the other two races worship the three eyes of Bararuk. Almost nothing is known about their history, mainly because they never wrote anything about themselves, with the exception of the ogres, but it's mostly recorded in the form of images rather than language. The best sources of them are from outsiders, who describe very negative things about them. The Homo Iker are distant cousins of the greenskins, who mostly exist in South Albian. Their skin are cyan blue, they are a lot taller than orcs, and usually have a lot more muscle than them. The Icic brutes are organized into many clans, usually going to war with each other or with the wildlife that exists in the south. These brutes can take out bears and all sorts of dangerous creatures. Their main diets are fish and meat, frozen raw, as the cold kills the bacteria inside them. Almost nothing is known about them. Their language has no written form. Their main form of keeping information is through painting. When they meet others, they usually ignore men unless provoked. The dwarves of South Albian have a mutual ignorance with the brutes, making the dwarves an unreliable source of information about them. By far the worst of creatures, these monsters that hail from the Hell regions, west of Kentera, and who are very dangerous. It is said that they raid and kidnap villagers from nearby villages to sacrifice them to their twisted dark lords. It is also believed that they can drink the blood of those who were unfortunate enough to get caught by them, and many more horrors. These creatures have red skin. Their bodies can vary from brutes to normal-sized men. They have horns on their heads, and some even have wings. These monsters are backward savages. They have no form of government except for clans and such. Those nearest to Arcadia have more advanced systems, but are still just as wicked and evil as the rest of them. Their warrior culture and evil pagan ritualistic traditions make them an especially hard opponents. If any are spotted near the coasts of Kentera or anywhere you find them, you are legally permitted to shoot them on sight. And these are the races and species of Albian, approved by the Guild of Exploration and Discovery and the Royal Court of the United Kingdom of Relman, legally distributed to all new settlers of Albion. May your travels be safe.